Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravana-chari Yamuna Tiravana-chari Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jannavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravana-chari Yamuna Tiravana-chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, verse 67. Mat, Sevaya, Pratitam, Te, Shalokyadi, Chatuschayam, Nechanti, Sevaya, Purnaha, Puto, Nyat, Kala, Viplutam, Mat Sevaya Pratitam Te, Mat Sevaya Pratitam Te, Shalokyadi Chatushtayam, Shalokyadi Chatushtayam, Nechanti Sevaya Purna, Nechanti Sevaya Purna, Putonyat Kala Viplutam, Putonyat Kala Viplutam, Mat Sevaya Pratitam Te, Shalokyadi Chatushtayam, Nechanti Sevaya Purna, Putonyat Kala Viplutam. Prabhu's, yes. Prabhu's, I said Prabhu's, so. Ladies. Sevaya patitam te. Trailokyadi chatustayam. Vichanti sevaya purna. Kutonyat kala viplutam. Matsevaya. By being engaged fully in my transcendental loving service. Pratitam. Automatically achieved. Te. Such pure devotees are fully satisfied. Shalokya adi chatustayam. The 4 different types of liberation. Shalokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shashti. What to speak of Sayuja? Na, not. Ichanti, desire. Sevaya, simply by devotional service. Purnaha, fully complete. Kutaha, where is the question? Anyat, other things. Kala viplutam, which are finished in the course of time. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the 4 principles of liberation. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shashti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Please repeat. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the 4 principles of liberation. Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shashti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur has estimated the value of liberation as follows. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman dharmartha kama gataya samaya patiksha. Bilva Mangala Thakur realized that if one develops his natural devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukti stands before him with folded hands to offer all kinds of service. In other words, the devotee is already liberated. There is no need for him to aspire for different types of liberation. The pure devotee automatically achieves liberation, even without desiring it. So I'll read the verse again. Matsevaya patitam te salokyadi chastustayam nechanti sevaya purna kutonyat kalabhiplutam. My devotees who are always satisfied to be engaged in my loving service are not interested even in the 4 principles of liberation, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Shashti, although these are automatically achieved by their service. What then is to be said of such perishable happiness as elevation to the higher planetary systems? So before starting, I want to offer my respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of my Guru. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Dinamine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. Nevi Shesha Sunyavari Paskachari Shatayine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanakana Shalakaya Chakshur Umitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Koti Vasalam Pangulakti. Yat Kipata Muhammad Shri Gurumati Nataranam. Vanchakra Patirasa Kipasimevasha. Patitanam Pavani Bhavashali Namaha. For by the mercy of Hare, Guru and Vaishnava, hopefully something meaningful will manifest. We can only speak on the level of our small realizations. So this verse has many points in there. We're coming almost to the end of this chapter. So sometimes when we do every single verse every day, we tend to forget how it started. So I'll just kind of recap and summarize the story in this particular chapter. So there was this Maharaj, Nabaga, who had sons, and one of his sons was Nabaga. And when he leaves, his sons divide the kingdom amongst themselves. But Nabaga stayed longer at the ashram of his guru. And his brothers thought he's not going to come back. So thinking he's not going to come back, they don't give him a share of the kingdom. They don't provide for him. But then suddenly he comes back. They don't want to sacrifice what they already have. So they tell him, my dear brother, your share of the kingdom is our father. So he's kind of simple, innocent, naive, simple-hearted person. So he goes to his father and said, my dear father, you are the share of the kingdom left, that you left to all of us. So you are my share. His father says, you're being cheated by your brothers. I am nobody's property. And so, what is he going to do? He's not going to fight his brothers. These things have been going on since time immemorial, cheating. It's not something new. It's something more prominent now, but it's not anything new. So, and his father says, look, descendants of Angira Muni, they are engaged in sacrifice, but every 6th day they're making mistakes. So you go with a particular hymn. That hymn is called Vaishvadeva. So I wanted to know what is Vaishvadeva. I kind of Googled. And Vaishvadeva is a ritualistic prayer to all the gods for one's protection. So every 6th day, what was happening when the descendants, the saintly persons were engaged in doing the sacrifice, they would be doing something wrong, making mistakes, and sometimes they would get hurt. They would inadvertently burn themselves with the fire, or something would go wrong here and there. So Nabaga tells Nabaga, you go there, you describe 2 hymns related to how one protects oneself. And after a while, all the sages, being satisfied with those hymns, they will ascend to heaven, and whatever money, whatever wealth they have accumulated due to the sacrifices that they are performing, they will give it to you. So Nabaga does that. He goes, and true enough, the sages leave, and they give him all the wealth that is there. And so as he's taking it, one person appears. It is described, he is Lord Shiva in disguise, who says, all this wealth belongs to me. You cannot take them. And so a dispute ensues. And Lord Shiva says, okay, let's go to your father. He will decide. And his father says, during the yajna, a portion of the sacrifice was given to Lord Shiva. So actually, yes, this is his. All the wealth is his. If he desires to take it, he'll take it. Nabaga, immediately, he falls at the feet of Lord Shiva. Please forgive me for my offenses. I did not know. Like we mentioned before, he was simple-hearted, innocent person, basically a truthful person, honest person. And by so doing, Lord Shiva is very pleased with him and gives him all the wealth. Lord Shiva doesn't need any wealth. So here he gets a kingdom, and an illustrious son is born to him, Ambarish Maharaj, who inherits the kingdom of his father. And Ambarish Maharaj, from his very birth, he displays devotional inclinations, and he engages in sacrifice, in charity, in austerity, in penances to please not himself, because we can do all that to please ourselves, right? We're going to come to Durvasa Muni, proud Durvasa Muni, who is so angry. Imagine the austerity that he does, and the anger that immediately manifests when something doesn't go according to his way. So Ambarish Maharaj, at one point, he observes the Ekadashi fast for a full year. And when it comes to term, it's time to break fast. Now, he calls all the saintly persons around, he feeds them, and after feeding them, satisfying them, giving them all kinds of nice things in charity, now he's about to break his fast. And who appears? Durvasa Muni. And immediately the king receives him well and says, "Please, O great saintly person, sit down, we will serve you." Durvasa Muni says, "Wait, I'm going to go to the Jamuna to take a bath, and then I will come." But he's also a greatly elevated sage. He goes to the Jamuna, he forgets when he's supposed to go, because he's lost in meditation. And meanwhile, the time arrives, like we all know this story, we've heard it so many times. And there's last titi remains. He has to break his fast. And so he consults the saintly person who says, "Okay, drink water. You will break your fast. At the same time, you won't break your fast." He does this on the advice of the saintly persons. And when Durvasa Muni comes, by his mystic power, he knows, the king has already taken something before his guest. This ill-behaved, ill-mannered king deserves to be punished. He doesn't care that he had been fasting for all this time. It was the last part of the titi. That's why austerity doesn't really make us a devotee. It might make us a very powerful personality. It might make us self-realized in the sense of, I know I'm not the body, I am Atma, but does it make us a devotee? Not necessarily. So, full of anger, he plucks a bunch of hair from his head. He throws it to the ground, utters some mantra, and out comes this fearful demon. Now, we have to go back a little bit. While Ambarish Maharaj was doing all these austerities, following all these vows, his purpose was to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was not about him. Here, in verse 28 of this chapter, it is said, "Being very pleased by the unalloyed devotion of Maharaj Ambarish, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave the king his disc." So the disc had become the property of Ambarish Maharaj. Gave the king his disc, which is fearful to enemies and which always protects the devotee from enemies and adversities. So the disc was already there. Sudarshan was already present on site. So as soon as that fearful demon appears, Sudarshan immediately appears and burns this demon to nothing. But Sudarshan is not done. Now Sudarshan turns to Durvasa Muni, who realizes, what have I done? And now he becomes very much afraid. Very, very much afraid. he turns, he starts to run away to all the planetary systems. It is said that he runs in the sky, he runs on the surface of the earth, he runs in caves, he runs in the ocean. It should actually extinguish, because he feels flames of fire, tongues of fire touching his back. He can feel the heat on his back. So when he dives into the ocean, technically it should go out, but no. Sudarshan still pursues him on different planets of the rulers of the three worlds, and even on the heavenly planets. Sudarshan doesn't stop. Finally, he goes up to the planet of Brahma, who tells him, basically, look, I cannot do anything. Now, he knows Lord Shiva is somehow more powerful than Brahma. So he runs to Lord Shiva, who tells him the same thing, I cannot do anything, but Sudarshan is a property of Lord Vishnu. So you go to him. He will probably do something. And now this is where we are. Lord Vishnu is speaking those verses. And he also says, I cannot do anything. Now this is very interesting. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Controller. Now when Prabhupada, in one lecture, when he mentions about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sorry, but he's getting old, he says, not Supreme Personality of God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is the head of all gods. Actually, for many, many years, I had wondered, why does Prabhupada always say Godhead? Why not just God? So when I heard that lecture, I go, oh, it makes sense. He's the head of all gods. So that's why very precise words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who says, the Vaishnavas are my heart, basically. He's describing Vaishnavas. And so we start to learn who the Vaishnavas are, the pure Vaishnavas, a real Vaishnava. And hopefully we are sitting here, hoping to become one day a piece of Krishna's heart. It's not such an easy thing. Try to think what he says. First of all, he's establishing. Ambarish Maharaj was not engaged in any sort of dogmatic religious activities. Because what he did, his activities, earned him the protection of the chakra, who is the personal weapon of Narayan, of Vishnu, of Krishna, always by his side. And another thing that we learn from Srila Prabhupada, again and again, Krishna consciousness is a science of relationship between the soul and the Supreme Soul. What Durvasa Muni was not happy about is a ritualistic part. Shh, you cannot talk. If you talk, you'll have to go in the back or outside. Especially if you talk in front of me, I will become very nervous. I will forget everything. I don't know what I will say. Yeah? Thank you. Durvasa Muni, what he's thinking about is the ritualistic part of things. When you have a guest at your home, Atiti Seva, you treat him like God. You know, that story that we know, Yamaraj came to those very poor people. Who had summer after many days of being famined. They found some food for him. He found food for him and his family. Yamaraj came. He gave half, and he's disguised. Yamaraj came in disguise, and the person again said, "I'm still hungry. I'm still hungry." Finally, he gave all the food. So this is Atiti Seva. So ritualistic activities is very strict. If we are following rituals, we cannot really make mistakes. It's like if I want to phone someone, There's a very correct and precise amount of numbers that I have to dial. If I change one number, I will not reach that person. I will fail. So ritualistic activities is like that. And so Durvasa Muni, he is looking at this part. Now what Krishna is explaining, he's explaining devotional service. So I will quote from Srila Prabhupada from a 1971 lecture in Calcutta. Those who are Goswamis, they place everything with nyaya or logic. Their instructions are not blind, dogmatic. Nyaya kovida. Everything what is said by Krishna or his representative, they are not dogmas. We have to understand that very, very deeply. What is dogma, what is rituals, and what is devotional practices. Those who are not representative of Krishna, they will simply say dogmas, just like in every religion, there is a dogma. But in Bhagavat religion, Bhagavat Dharma, there is no dogma. So what is dogma? Dogma is fixed, especially religious, belief or set of beliefs that people are expected to accept without any doubts, without question. This is dogmatic. Krishna consciousness is far from that. Dogmatic normally relates to the body, born in a certain community, following a certain type of religion, with a certain set of rules, and not questioning when it doesn't make sense. And I think if we observe the world around us, we've seen that, we see that, we even see that today, things that don't make sense. Once I was at home, and some born-again Christians came knocking on the door. They do good work, they go preaching, at least they give some kind of religious moral codes to people. And they started to talk to me, and we started to speak about the soul. And they were telling me how the soul is the body, and the soul is immovable in the sense of where you're born, this is where you belong. And I asked the person, so if a person is born in Africa, then the soul is African. If a person is born in Europe, the soul is European. They told me yes, without a doubt. And I said, so what if the African person migrates to Europe? What happens? And they were completely, they could not reply. And the person tried to think of something fast enough. It was impossible. What they believe is impossible to change. That animals don't have soul. A lot of people believe that. So we are not dogmatic. We all came to Krishna consciousness because of one or more reasons, which we all know, right? Curious, distressed, in search of material progress, money, or knowledge. And once we achieve what we wanted, do we stay there? Are we satisfied? That, okay, even think about the most subtle one of all these four, the one who comes searching for knowledge. What is all this? Where do I come from? What is soul? What is spiritual world? What is the world? How does it work? So once one starts looking for knowledge, and there's so much, such a rich, I would say, a rich well of knowledge in Vedic culture. So do we just stay there? Another verse where Krishna says, out of thousands, hardly one seeks perfection. So which thousands is he talking about? Is that anyone walking the earth? Which thousands he's talking about? He talked about 4 kinds of pious people come to me. Now, 4 kinds of pious people, not everyone, for instance, who is in material difficulty will come to God. Someone might just take to criminal activities. Pious people come to God when they're in distress. Someone else might look for a psychiatrist, gender change, whatever, stuff that's going on. But to come to God when one is in distress, it requires piety. When he says, out of thousands, hardly one will seek perfection, he's talking about the pious people who have already come to him. And perfection, like we mentioned before, Durvasa Muni is a perfected being. He's traveling everywhere. He even went to Narayan Loka, Vishnu Loka. He couldn't stay, but he was able to. But we can understand this person has realized, I'm not the body, I'm Atma. And as Atma, there's no limit to where I go, what I do. I'm Satchitananda, I can move anywhere, fully cognizant. He knows that. But then why does Krishna continue? And among thousands of perfected beings, hardly one knows me in truth. So who is that person? That's where devotional service starts. The person who is trying to know Krishna consciously has moved away from the 4 reasons why we came to Krishna consciousness. When we've moved away from that, and we're sincerely trying to know Krishna, Prabhupada says we should try to know Krishna. We should try to know Krishna by reading about Krishna from Krishna himself. He talks about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, for instance. Prabhupada says he's not talking about his intimate connections with the gopis. He's talking about who he is. And Prabhupada says, it's one lecture on the Chaitanya Charitamrita where he mentions that. We should try to get to know Krishna, and at the end, if we are fortunate, when you listen to that lecture, he makes just a slight pause. And if you're listening, your mind keeps running. If we are fortunate, we become an associate of Krishna. We would wish. He doesn't say that. He says, at the end, if we are fortunate, then we surrender. See from which platform surrender comes. So how many of us can honestly say we are surrendered? Honestly. Gokishoras Babaji told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who used to go to, before he started the movement, he would go to Bhakti Sammelan, organized by some Maharaja here or there. And Gokishoras Babaji told him one time, and he could not really achieve anything when he was doing that. And at one point he went to this Maharaja's place, who had organized a Bhakti Sammelan. There were many other people speaking. And for 4 days, or it was 5, I can't remember. It's in Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava. Bhaktisiddhanta did not eat anything. The Maharaj comes up to him and says, why have you not eaten? Please accept something. And Saraswati Thakur says, if I cannot give you anything, I cannot accept anything from you. And then he left the place. And shortly after that, Gokishoras Babaji told him, a Vaishnava in this whole universe is very, very rare. An assembly of Vaishnavas simply does not exist except in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, except in the Sankirtan Yagya, in the Kali Yuga. Vaishnavas are hardly to be found. We read that in the Satya Yuga, for instance, the way to self-realize was meditation. Does it say that they were devotees and then they went back to Krishna Loka? It doesn't really say that. It doesn't say we have such an incredible opportunity in this Kali Yuga of going back, becoming a part of Krishna's heart, going back to Krishna's planet. When we read in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Krishna Loka, Goloka is not together with all the other Vaikuntha Lokas. Krishna's planet is separate because he doesn't want this awe and reverence and incredible respect to enter, to contaminate the mood of the inhabitants of Goloka. So now we want to be devotees of Krishna. It depends where. Vaikuntha Loka or Goloka? Where do we want to go? Everything is dependent on our desire. He's not going to make this decision for us. He doesn't. We have to think, we have to know what we want. We have to know what we want even in this lifetime. Do I just want to be comfortable? Have a nice house, good children, little service here. Not rock the boat too much. You know, it is said in this Prima Vivarta, one of the greatest obstacles to devotional service, to devotional practices is complacency. One of the greatest obstacles. That's the reason why Krishna says, when I love someone, I give the person trouble. He rocks the boat. If we actually want to be Krishna's very own, he is going to do that. And we read this verse. It seems, not interested in the four principles of liberation, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, Shashti. We're not interested. But when he says, my devotees are satisfied to be engaged in my service, they are not interested, it means they already have it. When we refuse something, we don't refuse something we don't have. Otherwise, we are like the beggar in the streets who says, I refuse the $10 million. Do you even have $10 in your pocket? So sometimes we are like that. When we say, the most important thing is to be, whether in hell or in heaven we speak about Krishna. We're not interested to go back to Godhead. We can speak like that when we are at the doorstep. We have the choice, either I go out or in. Then I can say, I refuse. When we're not there, it's pretentious to speak like that. It's highly inflated pretension. So try to understand Salokya living on the same planet as Krishna. We cannot begin to understand that. When we go to buy a house, we're looking for a good house in a good neighborhood with good facilities, thinking this is a material world. Now somebody comes and says, hey, a place on the planet of Krishna, and we're going to say, no, I'm not interested. Well, of course we are interested. Of course we are. Same features as Krishna. Same features, same a close association with him, opulence of him. The opulence of him, are we going to refuse that? Who is going to refuse that? We have to be realistic. You see, Krishna can respond. He reciprocates with reality. He doesn't reciprocate with pretension, because pretension is unreal. It doesn't exist. I pretend to be so humble, I pretend to be so renounced. It doesn't really exist. These are real state of being. When Rupa and Sanatan say, we are more fallen than Jaga and Madai, there's a very, very precise reason why. Because try to think in our mind's eyes and to understand. They were very close associates of the Nawab. What were they doing? The Nawab would send people to convert Hindus, destroy temples, destroy everywhere, basically. We have seen evidence when we go to India, destroyed temples, desecrated deities and all that. And when Rupa and Sanatan say, and one of them was the treasurer of the Nawab, he would pay those people the salary of those people. When they say we are more fallen than Jagai and Madai, there's a very real reason underlying that. Honesty. And Jagai and Madai did not do that except being drunk. So if we are actually serious about having a relationship with Krishna, we have to be very honest with ourselves. That's why it's called the science of self-realization. The second verse of the Shastakam, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sava Shakti Shau. You have hundreds and thousands of names. In each and every name you have invested your full potency. But I am so fallen, Durdaiva. I'm so unfortunate. Nanuraga, I have no attraction for any one of them. So when we can go in all honesty, tell that to Krishna, he already knows. We try to hide it, and he knows that also. So if we can go in front and say, this is what I am, even though it's like looking at yourself in a mirror with all kinds of faults appearing. You don't want to look. You don't want to. Teenagers would know that when they have pimples on their face. They don't put cream, you don't want to see. So, seeing who we are is a bit like that. That's why we don't like to do that. We like to sweep it under the carpet. But if we actually really want a relationship with Krishna, there is no other way except honesty. That's why after realizing I have no attraction for any one of your names, Krishna, then Chinada Pisunichena. How can we chant Hare Krishna? With what arrogance can we chant Hare Krishna? There is no arrogance there. There's just prayer. Yeah, I wish we could understand what devotional practice is. It's amazing what Prabhupada gave us. When Prabhupada, it's very important to read Prabhupada's books. Actually what he says, he doesn't say read my books, he says study my books. Because there are so many aspects. Like even here when we think about, the devotees of Krishna, then we try to understand, am I a devotee? No, I'm not. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says we are practitioners of devotional service. Prabhupada says a devotee would think of Krishna, we are supposed to chant Hare Krishna 25 hours a day, he says. But when we finish we pull this last counting bead, it's like, it's a relief, which is, honestly, it's true also, because otherwise it's sitting on your head like a burden. And you cannot rest, which is a good thing also, because now chanting has become part of our DNA. We cannot not finish our 16 rounds, which is a very good thing. But at the same time, it should not really be like that. We should desire countless of mouth to be able to chant Krishna's glories, because chanting Hare Krishna is not just chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna is actually seeing the pastimes. And one letter that Prabhupada replies to one of the girls who wrote to him, asking Srila Prabhupada, how should we chant Hare Krishna? Prabhupada says you should chant Hare Krishna feeling the presence of Krishna. How many of us feel the presence of Krishna? We would faint, probably, because he's completely spirit. We are 1/10,000th part the tip of a hair, which is moving this body, but very covered, completely covered. That's why it's very, very hard to pierce through this lump of matter, dead matter. So Prabhupada says you should chant Hare Krishna, feeling the presence of Krishna, but if, however, you cannot do that, then try to hear yourself chant sincerely. This chanting sincerely is so important because we forget. Every time we take our beads, we have 16 rounds to start, we forget. We just are intent on finishing our rounds because there's so much to do. Sincerely, at least a place at home, which is where I chant my rounds. And at least for a few rounds, I am trying to hear each word. I'm trying to hear. And when I notice my mind is going, I should be happy because at least I'm not just dead consciousness. I'm awake. I can notice. You know, sometimes we try to understand. I remember when I first joined, I did not understand what is the mind. Why are you saying control the mind? What is that mind? How do you control? I was thinking, mind is me. It's hard to understand. But when we try to chant, even in kirtan, whether in kirtan or japa, and we see how the mind was somewhere else, now I start to understand the mind is not me, because this is not what I want to do. But the mind has gone. And the mind doesn't have its own consciousness. The mind is like a limb, an arm, a leg, which is physical, we can see. But the mind is subtle, we cannot see, but we can perceive. But just like that, the mind is also another element of the body. It doesn't have its own life. That's why it is possible to control the mind. Arjuna says, whimsical, turbulent, obstinate, very obstinate, that we know, and more difficult to control than the wind. Krishna says, it is possible by practice and detachment. It's very interesting, the word that he uses, detachment. He could have easily said determination. You know, I'm going to try, I'll try. It would make more sense, right? I fail, I practice, I fail, I try. That would be determination, but he doesn't say that. Constant practice and detachment. Why detachment? Because when we're trying devotional practices, we surrender to Krishna. And if we fail, we move on. If I try to not fail, I'm trying to control. It is, as we practice devotional practices, it becomes more and more subtle. I want to control my humility. I want to control how much my efforts. I want to be in control and I want to see the result. I want to see the result that I have succeeded. What if Krishna doesn't want me to? Let him do what he wants to do. All that I pray, my free will, all where I have control is, no matter what, Krishna, I want you. It's very hard to understand that. Very, very hard. Think about how he treats his closest associates, Subhadra, Abhimanyu, how he was killed by deceit, by 7 Maharatis. Finally, the son of Dushashan comes from behind with a mace, whacks him on the head, and he falls down dead. But while he was not looking, he was being attacked. Horses killed, chariot destroyed, chariot wheel destroyed, his charioteer killed. Krishna's own direct nephew. That's why Kapila, Narada, Brahma, Lord Shiva, they maybe they understand, maybe they know of Krishna's plan. But nobody, in Sarata Darshini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, nobody knows his intention. We don't know Krishna's intention. It may seem, how do you treat your devotee like that? Draupadi is getting disrobed in an assembly of men. And we know she tries to protect herself. How could Krishna not know? Of course he knew, because afterwards he's giving all this unlimited cloth. So why does he wait till it comes to that point? We could say when it comes to that point, when she puts her hands in her hair and she says, oh, Lord of my life, basically, protect me, protect me. Why? The Kauravas had been insulting her. That woman who is married to 5 men is used to be naked in front of 5 men. There's no problem for her to be naked here, so disrobe her. So when Krishna protects her, he establishes her glories and he establishes her chastity. No matter 5 men or not, he establishes that. And there's just something apart. This is what one devotee was saying, one very learned devotee was saying, to enable the complete destruction of the Kauravas, it was necessary to do something really sinful. So Krishna enabled that sinful activity of trying to disrobe Draupadi. He allowed that to happen because that tipped the balance. Now all the Kauravas would be destroyed. Nobody could be saved. So it's very, very hard to also understand what devotional practice is. We tend to think like, okay, I joined an ashram, 16 years, you follow ashram life, living in a temple, which is actually, right now, I am very, very grateful I had that structure, because you don't learn surrender, tolerance, humility like you do when you live in an ashram with people that you sometimes don't know, don't like, have arguments with, have fights with, and you got to keep on living with them. So we learn a lot. And so sometimes we tend to put devotional practice, we give it a structure, and that's a structure. That's what devotees are like. But then, let's take Garuda. Okay, we know he likes to eat snakes. He also likes to eat fish. Remember when Sobari Muni fell down? He fell down because of a very precise reason, very, very precise, that Prabhupada mentions in the purport. So Sobari Muni, when he sees Garuda approaching, and he's going to catch fish to eat, he curses Garuda that, no, he's protecting the fish. And he curses Garuda, if you come here, something bad's going to happen to you. And Garuda goes away, and Prabhupada mentions in the purport, and Sobari Muni falls down. And Prabhupada mentions that Garuda had a desire to eat fish, and he felt pain in the heart because he could not fulfill his desire to eat fish. And that's why Sobari Muni fell down. Can we digest that? A devotee had a desire to eat fish. And somebody who says, no, you can't eat fish, that person falls down. Can we try to understand that in a 3-dimensional way? How devotional service, how devotional practice, how to be a devotee of Krishna has nothing to do with dogmatism. Nothing. Our journey is very individual. Now, it doesn't mean now we're going to start eating fish and whatever. Because on our level, we have a lot of work to do. A lot to do. Because every single impression that we have taken in our mind over countless of lifetimes, we're going to live them. A pinch of desire, Prabhupada says, will make us take birth again. And we're trying to get rid of all those impressions, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, which are like dust covering the mirror of the consciousness of the heart. Prabhupada uses both words, consciousness, heart, he interchanges. So on our level, we follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Because Krishna says, you want to know how to come to me? Tad vidhi patipatena pariprashena sevaya. Approach the Sephira soul. He has seen the truth. He will tell you how to come to me. And Prabhupada gives us, okay, the 4 eggs, eating prasadam, having a morning program, chanting chanting Hare Krishna. And what we are doing is not going to give us really love of God. That we know already. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti doesn't. Hopefully we come to Raganuga, where whatever we are doing, like if we stay in the temple, for instance, we haven't, let's say it's winter, and it's very cold. I remember in Vrindavan it used to be like that. It's painful. So I remember in the 90s, I would stay for the VIHs, and in January it's really cold, and those times, electricity would fluctuate so badly, you could not even buy a heater. Immediately it would burn. And now staying like Shanti Ashram, Pogla Ashram, whatever, a bit far from the temple, to walk, I remember wearing like 3 socks, 4 chadars, something like that. You are so top heavy that when you pay obeisances, you cannot get up. Going for Mangalarti. And one of the reasons we did that, because I remember in one class, one devotee says, yes, it's cold. Yes, you don't want to get up. But Krishna, he's also cold. It's cold for him. He's up. He's waiting to see his devotees. So based on that, we don't do it for us, we do it for him. So one day, hopefully, that what we are practicing becomes so part of us that if we don't do it, we feel very incomplete. We feel it's our connection with Krishna. Ragatmika doesn't exist in this material world. But for us, on the platform of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the real work is anartha nivritti. Because as we practice, those weeds that are in the heart, they start to bear fruits. And we have to deal with desires we did not even know existed. We had no clue these would come. And then once they're there, we're like, how do I get rid of this? Or a lot of times desires that come, they're basically competing with other people. That's why it is a competition. Because I want to be that best at whatever it is. And that's what I want. And we would like this to disappear based on envy. And again, this question comes up as those of us who have joined years ago. The question keeps coming up, how do we get rid of envy? And obviously there's not one answer. It cannot be, because we are different people. So we have to know ourselves, to know what to do and how to go about it. So we have 10 minutes left, and I wanted to say that everything we need is contained is the Mahamantra, in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Our journey is unique and individual, just like I mentioned. And what we are trying to achieve in this lifetime, which is possible, because Prabhupada says in one of the purports of Bhagavad Gita, and actually when I mentioned that to Javita Maharaj, she said, oh, Prabhupada mentioned that in many places, that our experience with Krishna is direct. Just like, not even through the Guru, direct. Just like our Guru cannot eat for you, cannot eat for us, our experience with the food that we're eating is direct. In the same way, when serving Krishna, our experience is direct. And our journey is unique and individual. What we're trying to achieve is Krishna consciousness, meaning Krishna is everywhere. Everything that happens, pleasant, evil, terrible, horrifying, is with Krishna's permission. And remember, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was alive when the British were ruling, and horrendous things were happening. And whenever he would be brought into politics, he would say, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a very intelligent head on his shoulders. He knows what he's doing. We don't know what is happening. We don't know the big picture. So we are trying to come to that level where we see everything that goes on is with the permission of Krishna. He's overseeing everything. It's not an easy thing. At all, it's not an easy thing. It demands again and again bringing Krishna in our lives. So we act in a way that we try to do that, and hopefully one day Krishna will willingly take over. So before I finish, I want to end with a story where we don't take things for granted. Because we travel a lot, so we meet a lot of people. We hear a lot of experiences. So sometimes when we come to Krishna consciousness, we think automatically, that's it now, I am saved. And maybe we relax a little bit. So one time we were in South America, in Ecuador, and the person who invited us, he's from a different sampradaya, but really nice person. Yoga people, and they were having a retreat in the Andes. And so from where we were, the city, to the Andes was a 5-hour drive in the Andes. So you mean, so on one side is the mountain, then is a road, then it's a cliff. If you go down, you're dead. You can't even see the bottom. It's like going to Gomukh. We've done that too. Gomukh, Yamunotri, Himalayas, narrow road, Chasma, death, that's it. And so when going, the person who was driving us told us of a story. In the 1970s, a Christian priest went to India and came back with the knowledge of reciting mantras. So on his altar, so we went to stay in his house actually. He had already left his body. And on his altar, which they have still preserved, you see Vishnu, Lord Shiva, different Hindu divinities. And he had introduced chanting Vishnu mantras. So that person who was driving us, at that time, in the 1970s, he was very young, maybe about 10 years old. And he says, so they had been to one retreat where they all were oming. So the whole retreat mostly was Om, 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 Om. And on the way back, mind you, it was the 1970s, so vehicles were not well built. On the way back, there was a car, and they were behind. He was behind that car. So the car in front had people who had attended the retreat, and he was behind in another car. But in front of that car, who was in front of him, was a truck that was losing diesel or brake oil or something like that. And all of a sudden, of course it makes slippery. All of a sudden, the car in front just goes off the mountain. And it flies off the mountain, and we've been there. There's nothing. The mountain is just bare rocks. And I said, that's it. They're going to die. So they stopped the car. They rushed to the edge, looking over. And the car had landed on one single tree. Just one. The whole thing is bare. There's nothing. The whole cliff is bare. Nothing is growing except for the one tree. So some Quechua Indians, which mean the local Indians there, they're also called Indians, they saw the whole thing. They came with a homemade rope, stuff like that, got everybody out. And then everybody was unharmed. So they all said, there were 3 people in the car. They all said when the car went off, they all started to Om, 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 Om. They all recited Om, maybe, I'm not karma, whatever, but definitely. Om is his Shabda. Krishna says, I am the syllable Om in all the Vedas. They were protected. So then I asked this person who is driving us, who is now in his 40s, 50s, I asked him, so when this happens to you, it's amazing. God just protected you like Prahlad Maharaj. He just kind of caught you. I said, so where are they? What happened to all these 3 people? Oh, 2 of them just went back to material life. 1 of them hardly comes around. And I find that even till today hard to believe. How? How, when you go through such an experience where God personally saves you, how do you forget? How? So, yeah, always remember Krishna and never forget him. I want to end with a poem from Kavi Karnapur. Malva Prabhu will do kirtan tonight. And it's a very deep, meaningful poem. It's very small, so it's not much. So maybe if we can remember the words of this poem, it could help us. So Kavi Karnapur is writing, "Ah, my friend, the kirtan singer has spent a very long time singing just this one song, this one tune. Once his mind enters a certain place, it is very difficult to leave it. For 6 hours now, they have sung a single line from the refrain of a single song." Can you imagine? If we start to sing Shri Guru Charana Padma, that's all we sing for 6 hours. Nothing else. Because that's what's just happened now. For 6 hours, they have sung one single line of the refrain of a single song. And all this time absorbed in wonderful feelings. So, Prabhupada changed the world with this one melody of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. He changed the course of history. Nowadays, even when you go to yoga schools, they are not devotees. I don't think they want to even be Vaishnavas. But then you see, they speak commonly of things like sadhana, like bhakti, like they are oming, they become vegan, they want to meditate, they chant kirtan. All these are offshoots of what we did in the 1960s. All of that, they are offshoots. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. There are 3 minutes left. I would love if somebody has something to contribute. Say something. No, everything is clear. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for such a wonderful class. My question is, you were explaining about the Draupadi Chirhan, and you said that this happened because Krishna wanted to destroy them, and after this sin there was no way that they will be saved. So question is, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I am equal to everyone, and then I'm more inclined to make devotees. So, in case of Kauravas as well, how did he, in case of Kauravas, all the Kauravas, why did he sanction such a sin to happen? He should be giving them bhakti and try to change their mind. And
he should. We cannot control Krishna. What Krishna does. He is completely independent. You see, we come to this world because we want to play God, most of us. And these people who came, he comes with his entourage. There's that also. There's a side of pastime happening. There's that side. But the other side also is, he wants something to happen, whether we are his devotee or not. He's going to make it happen. For a devotee, whether Krishna, last verse of the Shikshashtakam, whether you make me broken-hearted by not being present before me, or whether you're here and you make me happy by being present before me, so whether you neglect me or you take care of me, you're always my Lord, birth after birth. That's the beauty of it. That's what love is about, something we do not know. Actually, we don't. There is nobody in this world who will take repeated abuse and still love the abuser. No, and also because we are in this physically created world, there are rules of karma. So the Kauravas had to do some really horrendous activity to tip the scales. He protects, of course he protects. We all have to die. That's another thing. So he protects, he protected gloriously, actually, when you think of it. Where does it, how do you explain unlimited cloth being generated? Think of it in your mind's eye, see that scene. Draupadi is, I mean, people would see that and cry, your hair stand on end. If he just appeared, you know, without even, when Dushashan goes to grab her by the hair, if he had appeared there would be no scene like that. It's more dramatic. It gives more trust. It gives you more assurance. It's, you know, when you make a movie, it's like that. The more dramatic the scene, the better the movie. It's a bit like that. And the other thing is, we cannot know Krishna. What about his intention? No way, nobody knows him. You know, I hope it satisfies you.
Thank you, Mataji.
I will. Yes.
Like Mataji, you mentioned that a devotee, he doesn't desire for like going to the spiritual world. He just desires to wherever he is, he should like speak about Krishna and hear about Krishna. This is what devotee desires. So I had this doubt, like if it comes to me, because I always feel like I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this devotional journey. So in the end, I can be with Krishna. I can just go and...
I said a devotee doesn't have desire?
No,
Is that
Mataji.
what you said?
No,
I did not understand you.
Sorry, Mataji, like I'll again say the question. Like you mentioned something about that a pure devotee, his desire is just to speak and hear about Krishna wherever he is, whether in spiritual world, in hell, wherever. Like his desire is just to glorify Krishna. And
I did not quite put it like that. What I said was, sometimes we say that we do not want liberation, but we will go anywhere, whether heaven or hell, we will serve Krishna. But what I said was, we have to be able to have the choice, which is in front of us, that yes, you can go to heaven, you can go back to Krishna, or you can go to the spiritual, or you can go to still stand in the material world. But most of the time when we speak like that, we don't have that choice. Because have we come to the point where we are now stepping out of the door to the spiritual world? No. Most of us know. Somebody refuses something when they have it in hand, when it is presented in front of them. So sometimes we speak pretentiously. That's what I was mentioning. So I think your question is a little bit of a tangent.
yeah, sorry, Mataji. Mataji, just want to like ask like how to develop that consciousness, because if it comes to me, I feel like I don't have it. Like,
you know, there's one story where two of the brahmacharis, old brahmacharis, they went to see Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, and they told him, Gurudev, since the day we have joined, nothing has changed. We are still the same, basically at square one. We haven't progressed, even though we do everything right. We attend all the programs, we read the books, we chant our rounds, and they started to cry. Nothing has changed. And Saraswati Thakur kind of looked at them intently and said, "Do you really feel like that?" They said yes, and they were even more emotional. And Saraswati Thakur said, if you really feel like that, then you are on the right path. If you are feeling you are advancing, that would be dangerous. Because Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, the difference between transcendental and mental is so subtle that most of us don't get it. Most of us will not get it. He's not talking about the person on the streets, because they're not interested in philosophy or spiritual. He's talking about devotees. Most of us, we believe what we think. Big problem. Which actually, we should believe what we think in a pure state of consciousness. Whatever comes to mind is actually correct in the pure state of consciousness. That's why we all have arguments with each other. When translated to this material mind, we make mistakes. We believe what we think. So the difference between transcendental and mental is so subtle. So when you have desire to serve Krishna, that's not it's all based on desire, we do it. If it is not correct, Krishna will correct us. Krishna will refine things. You're not meant to do it like that. Somebody will come and sit on our ego. We will get criticized here and there. Some accident will happen with whatever we're cooking. For instance, once somebody was cooking rice, it burnt, and said, oh, I don't have time. We're going to offer that to Krishna. Suddenly the finger just touched the pot, and the whole thing goes on the floor. And now, you have to cook the rice again. Yeah, it happens. Things like that happen. So we do as much as possible devotional practices. Now we have to also refine. Why do I want to do that? To push my ego or to actually serve Krishna? Because Saraswati Thakur also says, for instance, with chanting Hare Krishna, don't use the holy name to push yourself. So if, let's say I want to go and do arti on a festival day, but the TP says, oh, something happened in the pujari room, it's a big mess, the offering was brought, everything is on the floor, this person can do arti, can you please go and help clean? And you go, no, it's my day, whatever. So we have to know where it is I'm pushing my ego, where it is I'm actually doing it for Krishna's pleasure. That's a prayer. Oh my Lord, please engage me in your service the way you desire. That would be the actual prayer. And does it reply to your question? We don't kill desires. We do. I mean, we just have to do, and when we don't have anything to do, then we read. We sit and do kirtan. We don't have to wait for a big crowd to do kirtan. We just go in front of our deities, a picture, whatever. We do kirtan, we chant, with or without instruments. It doesn't matter. That's called engaging. Does it make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.